crews, how are you doing? Today we are going to be getting into how I administer my testosterone using one of these, an insulin syringe. We're going to be touching on a few different topics: stability, wastage, and pain. So basically, let's get into the stability. Most people inject their testosterone enanthate or cypionate like once, maybe twice a week, but this causes like a pretty big spike, followed by like a slow drop off, followed by another big spike, followed by a slow drop off. And these big peaks and troughs can increase certain side effects, and it's generally, for me, I find it does not work as well, and I have moved to this form of administration instead of using them big harpoons. This is just my preferred way of doing it. It's got a tiny little sharp on the end of it there, and yeah, it's a lot easier. So basically, I use testosterone enanthate, which has a pretty long half-life, and I could get away with administering it once a week, but as I was saying, my levels would be up, and down, and as a result of that, when there's that big spike in testosterone, the amount of estrogen which gets aromatized from the testosterone, gets turned into estrogen, will be a lot higher when there's that big spike, and then as it goes down, the amount would get lower, and then when it goes up, you're going to get a big spike, and you're also going to get a big spike of testosterone getting turned into DHT, which causes more hair loss and virilization. Now, I like some of the masculizing effects of DHT. I like the sex drive. I like the sex drive, but basically, I don't like the hair loss. And I don't mind getting a bit of hair growth on my back. I have now got a motherfucking hairy back. But I didn't used to have any hair on my back whatsoever. I've even got hair starting to come up on my neck now. I don't mind that too much. I really like the sex drive, but I do not like the hair loss on the top of my head. So we've already got less estrogen conversion, which means I have to take fewer aromatase inhibitors, which means that my cholesterol and my health is generally going to be better than if I were to be using more of them. I have got less hair loss, which is great, and my SHBG is remaining higher. And most people think, oh, SHBG, for all of you all who don't know, that's sex hormone binding globulin. Now, this mofo flies around in your bloodstream, and it binds onto like the majority of the sex hormones. I think there's only about 3% that is available and free testosterone available to do its effects in your body. Now, if you've got a higher SHBG, it is good. It is necessary. Most people think, oh, smash down the SHBG and you'll have more free testosterone and it's good. But SHBG is a mechanism of delivery for getting the sex hormones into the tissues where they're needed and where they can be active. So even though it binds up the majority of them, it is also needed to deliver the testosterone to where it's needed. So there's a balance. There's a balance to be had with this. If it is low, daily administration with this type of device is a good idea, because otherwise it just gets used up very quickly after you inject it. So you kind of need to do it daily if it's low anyway. But doing it daily helps keep it elevated. So that's a pretty good thing. Another good reason why you want to keep your SHBG elevated is DHT preferentially binds onto the SHBG. So that means that you have got less DHT floating around your blood, burning your hair out, and I consider that to be a good thing. So having more stable levels generally for any compound, for most compounds, let's not make a blanket statement here. For most compounds, I would go for stable levels and administer them daily, especially like injectables and stuff, unless it's like a pre-workout, getting your testosterone suspension in before you do a pre-workout, before you do a workout. This is the pre-workout. Yeah, this is how I would administer it. And everything's nice and stable, and you've got better health ramifications and everything. So next we're going to talk about wastage. So with this syringe, there is, once you actually push the plunger up to the top, that's it. There's very little excess solution left in the syringe. Whereas if you were using a normal one, with a replaceable needle, you get a chunk left in the end of the syringe, then you get a chunk left in the end of the needle, which is then thrown away. All of this is thrown away. And with this, you get a lot less wastage. Personally, I am using 350 milligrams of testosterone per week. At 250 milligrams per milliliter, this is a 1 milliliter syringe, so this whole thing full to number 10 would contain 250 milligrams of testosterone and anthate. What I need to do is fill it up to this point here, the marking number 2. And that is my daily injection. And it's a very small quantity. It's easy to do. And with this, you can really fill up to about the halfway mark, up to about here, about number 5 here, half a mil. More than that, you can get lumping in the tissue, which is where the oil doesn't really go into the muscle and it forms these hard lumps. I was getting that when I've actually used this for subcutaneous as well as intramuscular injection. And when I was doing it subcutaneously, if I did like a big bolus of it, I would find that sometimes you just get this hard, kind of not too painful like lump forming in like the belly fat, and it's just where the oil is interacting with the fat. And yeah, typically water-based solutions are injected into the adipose tissue, whereas oil is usually injected into the muscle. So what I do with this is I push the needle deep through the fat and into the muscle, and it's only, I don't even know how big that is that a half inch? It's really small. Most people use 1 inch or an inch and a half needle, and they're really wide needles and they have to push them in really far. So this brings us on to our next topic, pain. This is such a fine, the needle on this is really quite fine. I think this is a 28 gauge needle, and yeah, it doesn't hurt that much going in. When I was using them big harpoons, it's painful. Like, you push it through the skin, yeah, okay, that's okay. Then you got to push it through the muscle, and trying to force it like into the muscle. Sometimes there's resistance. You form more scar tissue with a wider piece of metal that you're jabbing into yourself, and then when you're going into that scar tissue again, you have more resistance, and it hurts more. And so with this, you get less scar tissue. You get less pain because you're putting something really small into the muscle. You don't have to put it in that deep, and it's just so much less painful. I think, you know what? The stability and everything's good, I am a massive pussy and I do not like dealing with injections and injection pain. Like, yeah, to start off with, it's fun and oh, it's cool that you're doing this thing. And it is kind of cool, like, still a little bit, kind of, sometimes. But I don't like the pain. And doing it with one of these is significantly less painful and less arduous, even though I've got to do it every day. Hey, you can even do it every other day, but like, it's so much less painful that for me, that's what really seals the deal and makes it my preferred method of administration. You can do it anywhere really because the needle's so shallow. You can go delts, lats. I prefer to do it on my hips. I do my hip flexor in the front, then the ventral glute on the side. So for the hip flexor, move your leg forward and you'll feel the hip flexor muscle. For the ventral glute, move your leg out to the side and put your hand on there and you'll feel the muscle engage that is moving the leg out to the side, and that's where you pop it in. And then I go all around the butt on the back and then back to the front. So that, and then I go one side, the next side, then this side, then that side, and move it round and round and round each time, giving you so many different spots to inject with such a tiny needle that I am experiencing less scar tissue, less pain, and even though it's like daily, I find it easier. I hope that you have found this information useful, and yeah, get yourself some insulin pins if you're doing TRT or a mild steroid cycle. If you have found this information useful, like, subscribe down below. Catch you all later. Peace!